Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us for the St. Thomas Alumni Relations webinar series. My name is Jenna Johnson and I am a Program Manager in the Alumni Relations Office. It is now my pleasure to introduce you to today's speaker, Mr. David Longren. Mr. Longren is a retired Senior Vice President for Polaris Industries Incorporated, a designer, engineer, and manufacturer of off-road vehicles, including all-terrain vehicles and side-by-side vehicles for recreational and utility use, snowmobiles, motorcycles, and small vehicles. Prior to retiring, Mr. Longren served in various capacities at Polaris since 2003, including President, Off-Road Vehicles, Vice President, Chief Technical Officer, and Director of Engineering for the ATV Division. Prior to joining Polaris, Mr. Longren served as a Vice President in the Weapons Systems Division of Alliant Tech Systems and Senior Vice President Engineering and Marketing at Blount Sporting Equipment Group. He currently serves on Rexnord and Horton's International Board of Directors. Today, Mr. Longren will be covering the topic of leadership in developing successful leaders. First off, Mr. Longren, thank you for being here. We have a very large audience for today's webinar. We're really excited to hear from you. So with that, I will turn it over to you.
Thanks, Jenna. And thank you, everybody, for taking the time out of your busy days to attend the webinar. And I'll try to pass on as much learnings as I can from my experience about leadership and developing leaders and what it's like in being able to successfully grow leaders. So a little bit about myself and my background. I'm a mechanical engineer, got my engineering degree from the University of Minnesota. I got my MBA from St. Thomas. I did that at night school. After about 4 years when I had been out working, I started doing that. Pretty big influence on me. It was a great, super experience being able to get that MBA. My career, I have got kind of a diverse career. I started off in the defense industries. I've been in 3 different total industries: the defense, consumer products in the consumable markets, and then in the consumer product business in the durables on here. In the defense world, I started off in the engineering world and marketing, and what I did when I was younger, I was trying to get as much broad-based experience as I possibly could get. So I took on any kind of a role to try to help learn more and more about an organization and how to continue to learn more about how to be successful in companies. In the consumer products business, worked in engineering operations, general management, running parts of businesses, and then in the durables business, again, kind of all the way across the breadth of the enterprise, including running the overall Polaris off-road vehicle business, and then lots of acquisition experience of international acquisitions and how those go on and how they work with those to try to build an organization. From a community side, because community is pretty important as you kind of develop your values and your systems, I've had experience doing some teaching in junior achievement, great experience helping me as I was going on in my careers, in working on youth coaching, helping kids. I love to spend time with kids and helping them learn about team sports and what it takes to get better. It's not about winning, it's about the experience on it. And then I was a founder of a Youth Hockey Association, which was a 501c3 nonprofit that we established. And then with that, I had to learn a little bit about politics and organizational skills and setting up a business, which is all pretty fun. From an influences perspective, key things ultimately that all shape me personally as a leader is great education, both in terms of learning how to learn at my professional educations on there. That was the whole key. Some stuff when I was young about in the Boy Scouts really influenced me. Always being prepared as a leader. It's one of the things that you ultimately learn is you always have to anticipate what was going to go on. And then bottom line was really I had some really great bosses. And I searched out great bosses when I was trying to pick my career and where I was kind of trying to grow as I was growing. So a little bit about kind of the key attributes of what a leader is. And the first thing is sometimes you'll hear out people think, that person was a boring leader. I'd contend that that's not really true. Leaders are really made. And it's an experience of life that you go through in your life experiences that really shape a person and who they are as a leader and their leadership capabilities. And you can continue to improve and hone your leadership capabilities as you grow and you mature. And I've kind of found there's kind of 6 key attributes of leaders. And first and foremost leaders is to be really an authentic individual, be true to yourself and your values, and you got to care about the people in the organization. As you're leading people, people know whether or not you care about them or not, and if you care about what are you doing. So you really have to make sure that if you're doing it, and you're doing it for the right reasons, and really there to do everything you can. Second is leaders are really good at being able to build a team and establishing a collaborative team environment. It's the organization and the skills and how people work together which really makes individuals successful. Third one, and usually most people know this, but it's harder than most people think, is to be a visionary. Is to have an idea in the roles you're in is what's the possible? What's the art of the possible? It's not just the incrementality of the next small thing you can do. How can you change the world? How can you change an organization? How can you do something step function better than anybody else? And then being able to make sure that you're always agile, because everything in business changes day to day. And a good leader has the ability to be agile and adjust leadership styles and approaches based on what they see coming at them. The other couple ones here I'll speak to is the complexity of an organization. And kind of as organizations get bigger and you take on bigger roles, everything gets more complex. What appears to be simple problems ends up being way more challenging as you think of organizational dynamics. A really good leader tries to figure out how to focus on the critical few. It's not the symptoms and trying to boil the ocean, which is a word that we use frequently, but you got to figure the 3 or 4 things that really matter and focus in on those. The other attributes of leaders that I've always seen, they're always hardworking. They have high energies, and they always set high expectations. That's part of the visionary aspect that you have is where's the world, how are you going to do things, how are you going to do it different on it, and be able to really strive for perfection and then try to settle for excellence. It's kind of a mantra that you'll hear frequently on there. The other thing to think about on there is most businesses have some kind of a competitor, and I would encourage you to think about who is your competitor. Who's the person in your competitor's role in your job? Do you know them? And do you know if you're beating them or not? Because they're trying to beat you. I mean, that's what businesses is generally about, is who's your competitor, and are you doing better than they are day to day? And the last part would be, you have to be analytical, you have to be intuitive. It's hard to read situations, and don't be cautious to ask lots of, helpful questions. Ask, engage people on it. If you do that, you create a right environment, you do some good planning on there, and you go through some execution, you'll end up delivering great results. So some keys on leadership development on there. And so I'll kind of go through 5 kind of key points here. First is to understand your values and your company's values. And you have to know your strengths and your weaknesses, and you have to know how that fits in with your company. If you watch your organization for a period of time, everybody can kind of figure out who the A players are, and then what are their attributes? What's the values that they have? What are they doing to be able to drive and be successful in an organization? So watch and learn and listen carefully with that. From an execution perspective, it's to make sure you have an extremely high say-do ratio. And a say-do ratio is if you say you're going to do something, you're going to complete something, you actually get it done. And not only do you complete it, you beat the expectation of what you set on there. A lot of people don't understand how important that is as a leadership in being able to commit to goals and being able to deliver on goals on there for yourself and for your team. And to do that, you have to make sure you understand your risks, risk management. You're always thinking, for me, my Boy Scout days, developing countermeasures. Be prepared. What's the stuff I haven't thought of on there? Making sure that you figure out have a high say-do ratio is a control systems. Is how do you make sure that what you're doing, that you're going to actually deliver it? So if you're off plan, and I've never done anything that wasn't where you had to have a problem, you had to do something different because of a problem. The key is to get a signal to you soon enough to say that you've got an issue and you need to do something about it on it. Third attribute is learn your business and making sure that you become an expert in something. So take stretch assignments, help your business out, kind of like part of what I did in my career when I went from different parts of the organization where they were asking me to help what to do. At the same time, I was choosing what jobs I wanted to go into to help me learn. So it's learning the breadth of the business, what really makes it tick, and that goes back to helping you understand the complexity of things on it. Yeah, you really need to make sure that you understand where an organization is trying to go and what can you do as a leader to help the organization be successful on there. And, put yourself in a position in your group or your teams to help everybody be successful. And one of the sayings that I actually had from my dad is my closing one on this slide is, if you don't know where you're going, it means you'll end up someplace else. And it's a directional statement that if you don't think about that for a little while, a lot of people don't know what they're really trying to do or what are they trying to get at. That if you do think about that just a little bit and you plan out, you'll end up being very successful. So one of the key attributes of a leader, was something that was never on my radar screen when I was young or when I was doing a lot of my work or leadership when I was in school or in my jobs, is the aspect of building a culture. A leader ends up setting a culture for his group, his team, their organization. And setting the right culture for success is critical, and it all comes from you as the leader. In doing that, it's your value systems, what you do. Are you authentic? Aren't you authentic? But part of building a culture is also enabling an organization to be successful. And one of the things I found as a leader is to do something that a management style I would call manage by boundaries or boundary management. That's the little cube that's on your screen on the right. And instead of telling somebody how to do something, you describe a problem for them. And you give them space to go solve whatever it is that you want solved. And then you put the check with me as kind of control limits, that if they get outside kind of a parameter, come ask me if it's okay to go beyond to go try to work on something, or is it no, it's a hard limit, we got to stay here. Sometimes I had it where I had a check with me in place, and somebody would challenge my assumptions, and my assumptions were wrong, and it was great that they challenged me, and we reset where to go and how to do it, and had great results. So helping create that space for people to think and to embolden them in their personal careers and their growth ends up empowering a team and an organization, and you start to create a learning organization and a learning team. It also helps to create open dialogue with yourself and the rest of the team members to help you all be successful. Other part about a really strong, successful cultures is cultures that like to learn. So that's a kind of encouraging that it's okay to try to push the boundaries, try to learn how to continue to learn new either facts from business or from academia, or area where you're just doing something no one else has ever done before. And in doing so, you help create a very positive environment, both from the technical skills as well as human skills. The keys of a learning organization is it's okay to make mistakes. You don't want to make fatal mistakes, but you have to push boundaries. You'll learn by pushing and challenging and making a mistake, learn from your mistake, and then help make things better. And so it's making sure that you continue to support that, drive that, grow that, help individuals out. And if you can build a strong culture, what I've seen from all the companies and leaders I've had is the teams end up being extremely successful. So on an organization, so now you got a culture that you're trying to create. Now you have to build an organization. And one of the keys for organizations is as you build the people of organization is hiring the right kinds of people. And so that's a big, strong organization, diversified skills and capabilities, but you always have to have people that drive ethics and support ethics. It's always got to do what's right, and that you always have to deal with safety. If you think about where companies get into troubles or individuals get into troubles, it's in their organization or in their ethics and safety areas where they get into trouble and a mistake occurs. And it's just something that as you're working on building a team that you have to keep that in place. To help make sure that a team is successful in an organization as you built your teams out is building the processes that allow your teams to be successful. A lot of work needs to be done, particularly as you have more complex teams, is to figure out how to help everybody do the right job and help them be successful on there. And one of the things that's known and said, and this is a very true statement, is bad processes will beat great people every time. So if you don't have a leader, if you don't focus on having good processes, you're at risks of having issues that'll come at you on there. And then just again, along with the culture, is just create that culture for that organizational team structure and make sure that you set your structure up to be a talent academy. And as a leader, being able to help develop people and export people to be leaders in other roles is good for them and it's good for you. And it's good. And the more you can do that overall, the healthier it is for you and for the organization on it. And so taking care of your people, understanding your people, building a great team, and making sure that you're helping everybody else be successful ultimately leads to great leadership. So structure. One of the keys on organizational structure is organizational structure always follows developing a winning strategy. If you don't know where you're going, you'll end up someplace else. My dad's little saying there. So making sure that you've got the right structure in place only occurs after you know exactly what are you trying to do and how are you trying to do it. And then go get the right people to help execute that plan, and then you can organize them the best way to help be successful. And that can be from going in and you can look at functional organizations, matrix organizations, consultants that you need, whatever it takes. You bring that back in behind your winning strategy. And to be able to do that, you want to make sure that you as a leader, you're worrying about developing the strategy. You're ultimately responsible for your area, your function strategy. What are you trying to do? How does it fit into your goals or your organization's goals? I strongly recommend that you help or the organization be successful, and then building your goals and your focus, your strategies, is use your team to help set the strategy. The more that they're participating in setting the strategy, the more likely they're going to be at being capable of executing the strategy and having to want to execute the strategy with you. The bottom right corner of this chart, I have a chart that sometimes is used. It's one that I thought of, and many leaders, particularly the more senior you are, that you come to understand and respect. And that's taking your organizational chart and you turn it upside down. Instead of you at the top, you're at the bottom. And the concept of this is understanding the responsibility you have as a leader for everybody that's working for you or the organization that you're supporting. And if you think about it that way, that means that you have that weight on your shoulders. Okay, if for both the individuals, their families, and everybody else that's associated with that. And your job as a leader is to reduce the barriers and reduce the issues that they're all facing to allow them to be successful. And if you can focus on doing that, then the enterprise and your team will be successful on it. But the difference is getting that concept in your head that responsibility is on you. And as a leader, you are responsible. That responsibility goes to no one else. It is yours, whether it's good or bad. On it, it's yours, and accept it and encourage it, work with it, and do everything you can to support your organization. So one of the other attributes of leadership is about communication. And a good leader, as you become further and further into an organization on it, is becoming a great communicator. And communication, obviously, is all aspects of communication. It's written, it's verbal, it's your listening skills, it's reading body languages. You have to be really good at all of it. And the better you get at communication, the better you become as a leader. Particularly, in helping, align an organization and focus of people, it's very helpful for that. But also, when things are challenging, people don't want to bring up bad news. And if they don't bring up bad news, if you're not paying attention to the messages and the communications, then you're at risk. And so you want to make it easy. So you want to make sure that you speak clear to the point and you engage people. And then make sure that, the bottom line when you're communicating and you're working with individuals is, lots of channels, different levels of the organization. And then make sure that as a leader, you're willing to take an unpopular position. If something isn't right and you need to make the call that it's not right, make the call. And you always do what's right. And if you do that and you communicate well, and you'll do well with your teams, and make sure that you always make sure your team understands that you'll welcome the feedback. Okay. So here's some examples of what I've heard over times of good communication. From starting off with the basics, you can look at this, you can read them. I'm just going to highlight a couple of them. How about thank you? And then asking people on the personal, how's your family? So it's taking that personal interest on there. Questions like, what did we learn as we were going through the effort? Encouraging people, that you can do it. And I have faith in you and the others. One of my questions that I would ask frequently is, help me understand. If there's something that isn't going on right, to use that question, help me understand. It's a bridging question to help people talk about whether their assumptions or challenges that they're faced with. That's really, really helpful in opening dialogue up. And the bottom one highlighted in there is, when you miss a plan, take responsibility as the leader. If you miss a plan, it's leadership issues almost all the time on there, and it's either strategy or process, or you didn't hire the right people, and just take accountability for it. If you do that, you'll have respect of your team on it. It's important to do that, and that's one of the concepts of that upside down organizational chart. That's your job as a leader. And if you do right, you do good, and if you have mistakes, own up to them, take accountability on that. And so if you do that and you have this is kind of an authentic leadership kind of a model, what I would call that. If you do that and you create a positive environment, you'll end up very successful. So execution. A couple of things on execution here. It's really pretty basic. Clear, simple goals for people. Don't overcomplicate stuff. Okay. Another one, hope isn't a strategy. Don't hope you're going to get successful or hope you're going to get to an answer that you're looking for. Build a plan out on there. Make sure you got a strong team. Everything is always done by the people. As a leader, the more you work as a leadership, the more you realize it's all about the people. It's the right culture. It's the right team. So make sure that you put the right team on the right problem. Understand what it takes to get a job done appropriately and get the right people. And if you've created the right culture on it, you'll attract the right people to do the job for you versus people who are high talented people that say, I'm not going to go work there. I don't want to work in that environment. Then it's really challenging on it. Be relentless on your execution on there. Do whatever you have to do to achieve. Make it so failure isn't an option. Okay. There's success. Obviously, failures can occur, but if you have a mindset of driving towards execution on there, it's amazing what you can get accomplished on there. Really, really important, as you're pushing and you're working with that execution with your team, the proper work-personal life balance on it. You make sure that you let your staff and people, if you're working for you, know that you understand that you don't expect them, to have to work 24/7. I personally, it's something I was a failure at. I was, a workaholic. I overworked all the time. I didn't have good work-life balance at times on there, but that's who I was. I knew that. People knew that about me, but I would tell people, just because I'm working that way, I don't expect you to do that. That's just me personally on there. And so make sure that you take your time, plan for, what's the unexpected. You're going to run into all kinds of problems, as you're trying to execute things. Try to plan for those, get the help that you need, and then help your team be successful. Remove their barriers, and it's amazing when you do that, what they can get accomplished. Okay, last slide, and then we'll take some questions. Some parting thoughts that I've learned from different leaders on here. First one is one of my favorite bosses. Would always say to me, direction is more important than pace, and pace is important. So you got to go fast on it, but if you're going the wrong direction, it doesn't do you any good. If you're thinking that you're driving like an aircraft carrier, if the aircraft carrier is pointed the wrong direction, it doesn't matter how fast it goes. So you got to make sure that your strategy is right and you're doing that right. Second one is a well-run organization is a quiet organization. And really that gets at that people know their jobs, they know what they're doing, they understand, the roles, the responsibilities on there, and that's a sign that a leader has got good processes and people in place. That's a good signal out there. One of my other really good bosses always told me, smart people hire smarter people. You don't have to be the smartest person. Find people that are experts at what they can do to help you. You create the environment and the culture to allow success on it, and focus on doing that, but go hire the best people you can possibly hire and help them be successful in their careers. Good leaders always inspire. You take a team and a group and you try to encourage them to do something they never thought they could do. They never thought it was possible. Help them be able to do that, empower them, enable them to be able to get stuff done. And if you do that, it's very satisfying work environment for both the individuals and the team, and it's something that generally great leaders are really good at being able to do. And the last one is leadership and communication. As I talked about having to be a great communicator, it's inseparable. If you're not a great communicator, it's going to be really challenging to be a great leader. It's all about communications. It's all about understanding people and organizations and skills and where you're trying to go. Being able to synthesize very complex problems into very few short words to help people understand what they want to do. And if you can do that, you'll end up continuing to grow as a leader as you continue on in your career. So bottom line, great leader creates a vision, they create hope, and with that they enable success for the employees in an organization.
Well, thank you, Mr. Longren. We truly appreciate your insight on leadership. This is just a reminder that if you have questions for Mr. Longren, in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen there's a text box. Feel free to send in a question, and Mr. Longren will get to as many as he can. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Mr. Longren.
Okay. So we got a few questions here. So the first question is, do you practice leading from in front in the form of being on the production floor to have face time with base level workers in your organization and learning what they do? I personally did that. I don't know if someone knows me personally here, but that is my style. Whether it was a production worker or any individual, I always led in front. I did go out on the production lines personally. I actually assembled products. I worked with operators to understand what they did, why they did it. I also held roundtable lunches at all skip level communication meetings with all levels of my organization to understand what they were thinking, what was the challenges they faced and what I could do to help with them. And I always found that very, very insightful in being able to do that. Question 2. Leadership and organization agility seem to be getting a lot of attention lately. What does that look like to you? Organizational agility is really about the pace of change that companies and organizations are under right now, with the technology that's out there today. What things that you would normally say take a few years to be able to deal with, or an approach to deal with, now you may only have months on it. So because of the digital world and the pace of global communications and global support and global teams, timelines have shrunk enormously. So being agile is extremely important. So to do that means you have to design an organizational structure that supports agility. So that's your control systems for your teams and your organizations, what they can do, how they can do it, and then knowing when you're going to adjust and make changes accordingly. So very, very important to be agile, to understand the dynamics that are coming at you, adjust appropriately, and then be able to be successful on it. Question 3. Do you have some comments about Lean Six Sigma, and what is your perspective as a leadership process? As terms of Lean, I'm a big personal supporter of Lean. I actually had it in a few points in a few slides in here on there. And I think of Lean not from necessarily the full Six Sigma approach. That sometimes gets viewed as buzzwords or the next cultural initiative of a corporation. I'd like to think of Lean from a slightly different perspective. And my perspective is Lean is about always doing what's right and to removing waste out of your processes. And if you remove waste of your processes, you get better process, faster processes, and improvement. And so I'm a extremely large supporter of Lean. From that angle, I'm also a big supporter of Lean initiatives from knowledge management. How do you share information enterprise-wide? How do you share best practices? How do you reduce, so that you don't have redundancies, multiple people doing the same thing multiple times, and eliminating that on it? There's some companies that I know that do Six Sigma as a formal process, and it's successful. I think it's dependent that using whatever type of approach, I would always support using Lean, whether you use Six Sigma or some of the other approaches, Deming or some of the other approaches. It really culturally, does it fit in your company and your culture of your organization? But the objective stays the same regardless. Okay, another question. What's the best business book you have read in the last couple of years? I've read lots of different books. I don't know if I would say there's one best one. There's one that I've referred to many times for people. One is a book by Bill George called Authentic Leadership. It's a great leadership book on it. That's a very, very good book I'll read on. Another one is a book called The Goal. It's actually a novel that's written about operations management. And it can be applied to any aspect of a business process. So it's way more broader thinking than what you generally would think of. That's another really great book. And then you got, your books on negotiating, The Art of the Deal. It's actually a fairly decent book of learning how to actually negotiate. Business, you're always having to negotiate. Understanding that is really important as well. Okay. Can you elaborate on leadership communications? Do you have any examples or tips? So leadership communication, one example I would give is, let's say, instead of just working with your day-to-day kind of communications, I'll go to a more broader type of a communication, is being able to think of an elevator speech. I'll give you an example. Okay, let's say, for example, you as an individual had an opportunity. You're on an elevator. You're going, 10 or 15 floors on it, 20 floors on it, and you get at the bottom floor, and the CEO of the corporation walks in with you. You've got 3 minutes to have a conversation. In that 3 minutes, what's the message you want to deliver? So if you think about having kind of an elevator speech, or the CEO can think the same way, or a leader can think the same way, what are the messages that you want to deliver in a very short period of time? So that makes you think about how to synthesize to the critical few. What's the most important words, things that you're doing or you're working on? One of the comments or statement an old boss of mine, who was a very good boss of mine, would say is, when I ask you what time it is, don't tell me how to build the watch. So that just gets to the point of being precise of your messaging on there. And so you can do that from, a simple communication, a very short, succinct. This is the three or four key things that I'm thinking about. Another way to think about it is an example of a communication is be able to write your team's, your organization's goals in a single page. Okay, synthesize all your words into one page, all the thoughts. So what's your strategy? What are you trying to do? No more than 2 or 3 sentences on there. What are your key strengths? 3 or 4 key strengths. And what are you trying to do from today to 2 years from now? 3 or 4 things. And if you take the few hours or time that it takes to do that, and the more you think about it, the harder that is, because individual words become very, very important. When you do that, you can synthesize very big issues or what you're thinking about into a single page. And if you can bring it down to a 1-page document, everybody with you that you work with or you talk with knows exactly the same thing that you do. So everybody gets aligned immediately on it. So that's a great way and a great tool to organize a communication type capability. Another question. Can change occur in an organization without full commitment from the top? That's a tough one. Some of my personal